October 14th, 1943. High above the clouds over Nazi Germany, the sky itself seemed to tremble. Hundreds of American bombers moved forward in tight formation, sunlight reflecting off polished aluminum like a wall of steel stretching to the horizon. They were young, many barely 20 years old. Farm boys from Kansas, factory workers from Detroit, college students from California. They had grown up during the Great Depression. Now they were flying into the most heavily defended airspace on Earth. No retreat, no hesitation, just a formation of American-built aircraft carrying the weight of a nation determined to defend freedom. Within hours, dozens of those bombers would be ripped apart by flak and enemy fighters. But they did not turn back. They held formation, they pressed on, and in doing so, they proved something the world would never forget. When America commits, it does not break. The aircraft carrying them into that storm was the Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress, a machine born not merely from engineering ambition, but from an idea that distance would no longer protect tyranny, that oceans would not shield aggressors, and that American industry could project power across continents. In 1934, when the United States Army Air Corps requested a long-range bomber capable of flying farther and striking harder than any aircraft before it, the requirement seemed almost impossible. 10 hours in the air, a massive bomb load, high-altitude performance, defensive firepower strong enough to survive alone. Many believed such an aircraft could not exist. Boeing decided it must. When the prototype first lifted off in 1935, it represented more than innovation. It represented industrial confidence. 4 engines roared in unison, lifting a heavy, metal giant into the sky with unexpected grace. A journalist described its rows of machine guns and bristling defenses as resembling a flying fortress, and the name captured its identity perfectly. Though an early crash nearly ended the program, the Army recognized its extraordinary potential. What followed was not just adoption, but evolution. Each new version carried more guns, stronger structure, better systems. By the time the B-17G entered combat, it carried 13.50 caliber machine guns, a 10-man crew, and the ability to climb above 30,000 feet while hauling thousands of pounds of bombs deep into enemy territory. It was not sleek, it was not elegant, it was purposeful. American air strategists believed wars could be shortened by striking directly at the industrial heart of an enemy nation. Factories, railroads, oil refineries, the machinery of war itself. While Britain shifted toward night bombing after suffering devastating daylight losses, American planners committed to precision bombing in broad daylight. They placed enormous faith in the Norden bomb sight, a closely guarded mechanical marvel that allowed bombardiers to guide the aircraft during its final approach with remarkable accuracy. The theory was bold. Tightly packed formations of B-17s, overlapping fields of machine gun fire, flying so high that interception would be costly and survival likely. Reality intervened over Europe. As the 8th Air Force established itself in England, waves of B-17s began crossing the Channel in daylight raids against German industry. At first, the losses were sobering. German fighters attacked in coordinated assaults. Anti-aircraft fire filled the sky with black explosions. On October 14, 1943, during the second raid on the ball-bearing factories of Schweinfurt, the cost was staggering. 60 B-17s were shot down in a single mission. Hundreds of American airmen were killed or captured. Yet even in that loss, something became undeniable. These bombers had flown deeper into the Reich than anyone thought possible, and returned in numbers that defied expectation. The turning point came when long-range escort fighters finally matched the bombers' reach. With proper escort, loss rates dropped and German fighter strength began to collapse. the skies over Europe slowly shifted in favor of the Allies. Day after day, B-17 formations struck oil refineries that fueled German armor, aircraft factories that supplied the Luftwaffe, and rail hubs that connected the Reich's war economy. More than 600,000 tons of bombs were delivered by B-17s over Europe, helping dismantle Germany's ability to wage war and paving the way for Allied forces on the ground. The B-17 earned its legend through survival. Photographs show aircraft returning to England with shredded wings, engines destroyed, and fuselages riddled with holes, yet somehow still airborne. Crews frequently described their aircraft almost as living companions, battered but determined. Even adversaries acknowledged its durability. When the war ended, the B-17 was quickly retired from frontline service. Yet its silhouette, the broad wings, the glass nose, the tall vertical tail, remains etched into American memory. It represents not just a bomber, but a generation that crossed oceans to confront tyranny and proved that American industry, innovation, and resolve could project power across the globe in defense of